Welcome to Comics in the Making. My name is Ryan Holgerson. I'm the creator of Slackmatic, and I'm joined, as always, by Levi Erickson, the creator of The Big. Levi, how are you doing?
I'll be just dandy in about 3 days.
Yeah, yeah. We were just talking about this on the phone, and we are ready for April to be just over.
Yeah.
Uh, it has been just a shit show of a month.
Yeah.
Um, we had, we lost Ed Piskor on the first day of April,
Right.
and go see our video on that.
Mhm.
I'm sure if you're watching this, you know all of what happened. Anyway, um,
Yeah. Yeah. And
you
it's
know,
been 3 weeks. I mean, it's crazy to think that that the topic is still being discussed, but then also it's completely you would think that there's a lot more to talk about and work through before we can, collectively as a comic book community kind of move on from it. Like there's unfinished business, I think, but um I'm interested in, moving into May and trying to pick up where we all left off a few weeks ago.
yeah. I mean, even if the act of going into May is really just an illusion.
Mm.
Uh, I am ready to um, try and find some semblance of normality. Uh, and I don't know if there will be. I don't want to just say, hey, it's a new month, it's a new
Mhm.
me, it's a new everything, everything. Uh, but I hope so. Uh, this the event really kind of knocked a lot of us off track as far as our
Oh yeah.
uh creating and everything. And I went from uh let's see, in March I did 22 pages, which was my lowest month this year. Um that's coming off of, like, 45 and 20 something, and and so far in April I've done, uh let me think, 18. um which, I can't complain about doing 18 pages,
Oh
but
no, no. If I got
but
18
I'm
pages
gonna,
done.
because it wasn't what I wanted to do. I wanted to do more than that.
Hmm.
um but at the same time, and I think we actually talked about it in the episode that's dropping today,
Hmm.
April 28th. uh I think it's good to take a step back and unplug, and that was part of what I did uh the last few weeks.
Yeah.
And I might continue to do. I'll tell you what, Levi, I've been kind of trying to just do some more grunt work this
Yeah.
month. And uh at the beginning of the month I prepared the Wizard staff collection.
Yep.
um Plug. And
It's there.
uh yeah. So that was, several of my days at the beginning of the month. And then this past week, after I finished my latest story, uh I was like, I'm gonna do some more grunt work, and I got the second collection together. That's off to printers. Um and that was just a day of, I did do the cover art and stuff like that. There was some creativity involved, but then a lot of it was just, formatting every
Hmm.
page and putting it in a file and setting it all up, and then sending it off. Um, it it was at least a way to feel productive
Yes.
without um really testing those creative muscles, I guess.
Right.
Um, and and I for me this month has just been uh those creative muscles have just been hard to find.
Yeah,
Um,
I
you
agree.
know, yeah, coming out of 3 months of writing a story, sometimes two every week. Um, and this is just, I don't want to say it's been writer's block, but it's just been just just haven't been feeling it.
Yeah, and I'm sure a lot of that's whether you realized it or not, fatigue, is real. It's a thing, and I wouldn't be surprised at all if it was starting to set in, and you may not have realized it, and then the events unfolded at the beginning of the month that just you know makes a kind of a perfect storm of you know
Yeah.
but it's good. I like how you mentioned, I think we've talked about it on one of the other episodes as well. You're not feeling the creative juices. You're not feeling about, inspired to write or to, you know, to pick up your pen. But there are other things that you can do that keeps the project moving forward, and that puts a little bit more back in the gas tank. It does for me, because
Oh
I've
yeah.
got, I've got like a hierarchy of things to do, like doing the final inks on a page. That is like the elite level project element for me. Um, because I really feel like I'm moving on to the next step after I do even though I still have to do the tones and the formatting, all that kind of stuff. When the final links of a page are done for me, now I'm that's real progress made. But if I'm not at a place where I feel like I can do that, I can do some layouts, which are just as important. I can script out some more pages. If I don't have a lot of time to set up a bunch of stuff and spend some time, because I don't want to start dipping my brush in the ink knowing I only have, 45 minutes. I will and I do, but I want to know that I've got the time that I need to really get into the page and warm up. So I have like a hierarchy of things. And kind of at the bottom of the list, once again, equally important is getting files together, doing your file management. Um, I got issue number 2 uh to the printer. So getting the files put the way the printer wants them, naming the naming conventions all being correct, proofreading all my stuff once again. And so that's something that I can do. And I've had a very difficult couple of weeks, personally. Once again, that perfect storm, the tone was set for a shit month and just more stuff gets piled on top of it. So I felt really accomplished when I hit the button to get those to the printer. And I felt like that was another step in the right direction to set me up for, continuing the project.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, yeah, no, it's what, and I think it's perfectly okay to take a step back and not do anything.
Hmm.
Um, and we've talked about that on a bunch of episodes. So I don't want to necessarily rehash a bunch of that. Uh, but I think it's important. Um, but again, doing some of that grunt work, just to feel something.
Hmm.
And for me, I was telling Levi about this on our call before we started. I got that next issue together, and I I was still feeling pretty bummed towards the end of the week. I released a comic on Wednesday, and it just didn't do super great online. But funnily enough, it did the best on TikTok. Um, I don't know, whatever. I'm not going to complain, but yeah, by
Enjoy it
TikTok,
while you can.
yeah, I
Yeah.
know. I'm like, yeah, this tracks. I would do the best on a platform that's going to be gone, maybe. I mean, there's going to be a lot of litigation and stuff like that, but
Mhm.
God knows. Anyway, um, but yeah, I was a little down, and so I started working on a project that I have continued to put to the side for literally 2 years, maybe more.
Mhm.
Um, and I just started lettering and doing these pages on this story. This story's over 50 pages, and um, I do have some tentative plans for it later on in the year. Um, but at that point, I was like, oh, just fuck it. I'm just gonna start working on this. I'm gonna start knocking it out. And I was ready to kind of devote the next little, month, 6 weeks, whatever, to getting this done. And then bam, I got another idea for my next weekly story.
Yeah.
Um, and so it was that grunt work that just letting your mind go someplace else
Mhm.
that got me through that, you know.
Yep.
Um, sometimes I like to just, oh, I hate grocery shopping, but when I'm feeling like this and I'm not getting anywhere, sometimes I'll just find a reason to go to the grocery store or something like that and just walk around because I'm not thinking about anything. Um, and that's when it all it all just seems to fall into place sometimes.
Yeah, I did that Friday night. Um, I I went the the family was off doing kind of their own thing, at work or whatever, and I was left home alone. And yeah, I'm gonna, I'm gonna draw, I'm gonna do something. The band's getting together Saturday. I can, freshen up my chops. So I run to the store, and I wasn't really looking for anything in particular. And so, but whenever I see buy one get one frees or the deals that they have, I'm just, oh, cool, that's that. And I almost never eat cereal, but the Reese's Puff cereal, it is Dragon Ball Z like tie-in, and it was on sale, and I saw some kids like going, ape shit over it. It's like, oh, I gotta have that.
Yeah.
And so when I'm checking out, I just have a few items, and the clerk is just kind of checking them in and kind of giggling and kept glancing at me and kept glancing over at the bagger, and they were just giggling. And it was pleasant, but then I realized that I had bought that cereal, the Reese's Puff cereal, the sweet chili Doritos, a 12 pack of Baja Blast Mountain Dew, and a 6 pack of Narragansett Lager, and that was like it. And so I just wanted to say like, no guys, I'm not stoned right now. I'm totally
Yeah, no, I was like, and how many drugs did you do in the parking lot before you walked in there?
but if you're in that position, that it's like you can probably, glean what the future plans of a customer is based on what they're buying at any given time. Like they're
Oh
like,
yeah.
"Now, this dude is gonna get high as a kite here in a little while." And I'm like,
Yeah, yeah,
no,
yeah.
no, no, really, I'm not. Guys, come on.
Yeah.
But yeah,
That
all the clues
yeah.
were there. All the right clues were there.
You you literally listed off the grocery list from that scene in Half Baked.
Yeah.
Uh,
But I was just following all the sales, all the signs, like, oh, we like the sweet chili Doritos. Yeah, let's get that. Oh, Dragon Ball Z, that's probably a good cereal. Dragon Ball Z's on it too. Let me get that.
That's funny.
And yeah, Baja Blast. I got when that's at the right price. I don't walk past that.
Yeah. I'm not a fan of Baja Blast.
What?
Yeah, no.
In meeting.
Yeah, I know. Sorry. Hot take. Hot take.
I don't drink that much soda either, so and when I buy a
Yeah,
12
I try
pack,
not to.
I get about two of them when I buy a 12 pack
Yeah,
because I'll turn around
right.
and the empty box will be sitting there, you know.
Yeah, right.
I guess the other ones just all dissolve, you know.
Yeah. Hey, kind of switching gears. Did you see the Jim Lee post about AI art?
No.
Okay. All right. Totally unscripted, guys.
Oh boy.
We're
Yeah, I'm
just
not prepared for this.
yeah. So I took a screenshot
Yeah, if we get the thing, we can put it on
so
the screen.
I can read this verbatim. So this is Jim Lee who is what's his title at DC? CCO. I think he's Chief Creative Operator.
Yeah, he's the HMFIC of DC
Uh-huh.
Comics.
So he writes, we have to figure out a way to live in a world where it exists and the source material from which it derives its content is properly credited and compensated. But even if it were accepted and someone were going to pay me to use an AI engine to create work, I just wouldn't do it. I don't create art so I can have something to get paid for. I love sitting down with a piece of paper and a pencil. I enter this fugue state. Hours go by and it feels like 15 minutes. And at the end, I have this incredible sense of satisfaction because I went on this journey and I've created something. Typing something into a prompt and getting something 2 minutes later, I'm robbing myself of the whole point of why I got into this business. And that's it. Um,
All right.
I I really like that quote
Yeah.
or what he wrote. I agree with it pretty much 100%.
Hmm.
Uh, um, and I think this is following. It was I think DC, right? I think maybe a week or so ago. I haven't followed this that well, but I believe some covers of theirs got dinged
Yeah.
um, for being AI generated.
Yep.
Um, and so who knows how much of his statement is, saving face for DC or whatever, but it seemed genuine. Um, but I do agree with it, and I know we've talked about AI a bunch, but it is pertinent to all of us. I I feel like I've been seeing more and more, and I think maybe this is a step in the right direction, but I've been seeing more and more uh posts from AI artists almost like complaining that they're not being respected or they're trying to get commissions and helping AI artists out and all this shit and I just I never want to sound like the old guy in the room when it comes to technology and stuff
No.
like that, but I just truly don't see where these guys are coming from
No, yeah,
at
there is
all.
no standing for that at all. You're trying to equate yourself and what you do with people, who are actually, taking what's in here through here and getting it, down on paper or
Yeah.
down on a medium. I mean, there
Well,
is
and
no there's no argument that you could make that equates those two things at all,
no,
you
and
know.
so I'm looking on my phone real fast because I want to make sure I'm getting this guy right. Okay. Um Tim Malloy, it's Tim Timolloy. Uh he's on Instagram. He does a lot of really cool like watercolor and ink drawings, but then he also does some really trippy surrealist comics uh on his page. I love his stuff. He does some AI stuff. And but it's all through the lens of this world that he's built. And he makes it look like this old 70s like TV show or something like that. Like it's dude, the stuff is just it's creepy. I and that's a bit of AI art that I like, but it's an actual artist doing it. And I think that's where part of the big difference is with some of these people. Um, I think it's like when chip tune music started getting really big.
Mhm.
People that don't know, chip tune is just it's video game like
It,
8-bit,
it's our intro
16-bit.
song.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Oh yeah. The uh
We can cut
and
that out.
and no, don't. It's fine. I love chiptune music, but I remember when it first started getting big and people were like, "Oh, I want to do this, but I have no musical background."
Yeah, see,
Yeah, it was like, well, you can't. I mean, you can try. It's like surely, go and try, but you gotta have some kind of background. And I think that's where with the AI shit, um, a lot of these they're not artists. They're just picking and grabbing this
mhm.
shit, and it's just it's that's why. And I've said it before countless times. When I look at a lot of this AI art, I don't see a soul.
No, yeah.
And but like with Tim Malloy's stuff, I do. And I think that's because there's an artist behind it, um, making this. And so yeah, I don't know. I just wanted to throw that out there. We've got a few. I know we're going to continue to talk about AI
Oh,
because
yeah.
it's
It's not going
it's
anywhere.
yeah,
It's a
and I
matter
and
of,
I've seen other posts, uh, where people are like, now I can't even look at real art and without thinking, is this AI or not?
right.
Um, and which I don't know what that I don't know what that means. I feel like I can tell pretty well, but you know what? I don't know. I've honestly I know I've seen some art that I'm like that looks kind of AI and it's not, so I guess it's just not for me. Um
Yeah. And it's I watched a video and I can't remember what it was yesterday, and it was talking about special effects in film. And it was doing side by side and comparisons, and it was a good deep dive into practical effects and what was established going back to the 60s even, um, of having to, or before, but having to make films with the awareness of, to make it work and look right, you have to do different things as a director and a cinematographer. And that's leaving out even like all the like special effects, but things like forced perspective and double exposure and things like that to get um like some of those, the Universal monster films, to make that stuff look right, the Wolfman being one that he really kind of hung there on. So a lot of it had to do with just filmmaking in general. Point that he made about like American Werewolf in London will show the drawn out transformation that's very expensive to do, and all that with the practical effects. And then later on in the film, we're we're going to be judicious about how we reveal different parts, of that, so we don't have to just do it again, film it again. um so there was so much more of an awareness
yeah.
of filmmaking. Jaws the same way.
Hmm.
I mean, granted, uh Spielberg planned to show the shark a lot more, but the shark didn't work that well. So they did this less is more approach,
Yeah.
which was the difference maker for that film. And it taught lessons that you can see a through line from from Spielberg, and of course all of his all the people that inspired him, all the way to Jurassic Park. Um, and you know, which is now we're in the realm of CGI. Um, so I think that kind of falls into almost the same bucket, because now when you're just leaning on CGI, the awareness to filmmaking is not there anymore.
Yeah.
You know, so it's flatter compositions. It's you know, it takes away um you know, a lot of that inspiration that directors had. And I think
Yeah.
that's kind of what, you know, you're commenting around AI and the lack of an artist's soul behind it, you know. And
Yeah.
as a consumer, you know, we used to watch movies and go, man, how'd they do that? How'd they make that look real? Do they really have, you know, AT-ATs, you know, out there? Um, no one asks those questions anymore because, oh yeah, it's just CGI, you know.
Yeah.
Which, you know, can be done very well. It can be used
Well,
to definitely make things look better, especially when you're using it for background elements.
yeah.
Um, but you know, I think it's a very similar dynamic between, you know, computer effects and practical effects and AI art, and or AI, just drop art from it, and
Yeah.
human produced art.
Well, I have another point, and that, but like you said, dropping art from it, that reminded me of a meme that Eric Larson shared. That was, you know, essentially, uh, it's like calling someone who heats something up in the microwave a chef.
Right.
Like, you know, like, but I think what you're talking about with it, with coming at it from like films and stuff like that, is using limitations to your advantage.
Right.
And limitations is something that especially for my recent work, but even going back, I always put limitations on myself uh when I'm starting a project. There's almost always a set of rules with everything that I do. And it's always in the back of my mind. It's either, you know, I'm only using this brush,
Mhm.
I'm only using this color palette.
Right.
I can't do this, I can't do that. And it helps me work within those limitations. One, it takes away a decision making process
Mhm.
where I just don't have to think about it. And for me, I work a little faster because of that.
Yeah.
Two, I just think it makes for a more pleasing visual presentation. Um, I've even recently working on some of my latest stories, I still use the straight edge tool and stuff like that, but I've been using it less and less because I really want this hand drawn feel to my digital work.
Hmm.
Um, and I just want to draw. I want to draw. You know, I'm
Yeah.
drawing, and I think that's the big mistake when people start digital art is they're not drawing that much. It's a tool.
Hmm.
You should use it as a tool. Um, you know, when I'm actually doing the drawing and the inking on my stories, my little remote that you know, switches me between paint bucket and selection tool and all that stuff, it'll turn off a lot because I'm just drawing. That's all I'm doing.
Yeah.
I'm just drawing. And so I'm not using it that much. Um so I really think it's important to set those limitations when you're doing some sort of project. And I think maybe that's part of the reason AI and, you know, looking at that early CGI work, it doesn't appear to have a soul because it's these people coming into it with no limitations whatsoever.
Right.
You know, you can see that with the first digital coloring in comics, you know,
and
lens
digital inking.
flares. Yeah.
Yep.
Oh yeah. Yeah. No, just lens flares everywhere. You know, what can we do? You know, let's get like just a shit ton of shading and rework all this stuff in the colors, and it looks bad.
Yeah.
And I'm as guilty as anybody. When I first started using Photoshop, I was like, oh man, I was all over it. I learned how to do, you know, these like shining from the back, you know, and make it look like it was glowing, you know, kind of like the back of my head now.
Yeah.
Um, and it just, and I guess mileage may vary depending on who you are, but the further I've gone in my artistic journey, I've realized that you don't need all
Yeah.
that shit.
Yeah. I think, the thing that really started bugging me in those days was that comics started looking like a collection of stills from animation cells.
Yeah,
They stopped looking like comics. And
yeah,
that that's all fine. That's all well and good. I mean, um, I'm not trying to pick apart using tools and emphasizing, you know, the the visuals, but it like you said, it just went completely sideways. And there's a big difference between that and what, say, Alex Ross does, because
oh yeah,
the Alex Ross stuff still looks like comics, even though they're highly, rendered, beautiful, detailed paintings. They still read like comics.
yeah.
And so I'm able to make that distinction. Uh, and he's not someone who just found a tool and got good at using the tool and just went ape shit. you know, he's someone who really refined a skill. And and I think, like, I guess that's what we're talking about, is tools and how to properly use them. It's it's like a kid that just got the driver permit and now they think they're gonna get into a Ferrari on the Autobahn,
Yeah.
you
Yeah,
know?
that's it's that's where I that's where I get torn because I I think a lot of artists, you know, do get a little pissed when they see people. I think that was kind of the original argument against digital, you know.
Yeah,
I've spent 20 years learning how to ink with a brush, and now you can go into Adobe Illustrator and make it this beautiful vector brush line and stuff like that. And you know, I remember the first time I messed with Illustrator, I was like, man, I'm gonna be Charles Burns, you know, and I'm just like feathering it everywhere.
yeah,
Um, but here I wasn't anywhere near Charles Burns. You
yeah,
know, you could tell it just yeah, it looked terrible. And but I hesitate to give too much credence that, oh, you gotta take your lumps, you got to work for 15 years to get good at this and stuff like that. But I still think that is the reality of it.
yeah.
You
Because
gotta, yeah,
the hard part is not getting that line, work the way you want it. The hard part is getting this to understand what it should be and how, and you know what I mean?
yeah,
So it's still coming out of here down to here. Now, I know we're running out of time. We got want to wrap up, but I feel like this thing with AI is one of those, just another one of those things. We're not having the argument that, oh, when digital art came out and, contrasting that with traditional art, even though you and I both have our preferences, it's not the same conversation. And right now, as it is, I think people see AI as a back door, as a fast track
yeah,
to do something that they, you know, I don't want to say can't, but won't do.
yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's
Oh
kind of
yeah,
like, I mean, music also has its own version of that. Rather than sitting down and learning something, and DJing is just as much music. Producing beats is just as much music as playing a guitar. It takes the same talent, same understanding of rhythm, melody, and all that. But there are other means that people who don't want to put the time in, to figure one of those things out, and they see an opportunity to backtrack or backdoor and fast track their way, to something that they won't do otherwise.
Yeah.
And that's my take on it.
Yeah. Well, I remember this was I don't probably 2 decades ago, but I remember hearing an interview with the RZA from Wu-Tang Clan.
Yeah.
And he does all the music and beats and stuff for them. And he said at some point he was like, I need to learn music because at the beginning he
Mhm.
didn't. He was using samples and stuff like that. Obviously, he's still talented at it,
Oh yeah.
but he was like, I have to learn this. When he did that, he fucking leveled up.
He saw the need to get better. It's
I
like a guitar player will do
yeah,
the same thing. I learn my three chords
right,
and I can do what I want. And then you go, wait, what I want's more than just that. So now I got to learn, I got to learn
yeah,
scales. I got to learn, all that kind of stuff.
yeah.
I mean, it's
And
the,
it was
it's,
after that he, which I would arguably one of the best movie soundtracks ever, the Kill Bill movies. He went on and did that
yeah,
afterwards.
it's
You
that
know,
desire for
it, yeah,
self-analysis and improvement that sets the difference between the two.
yeah,
People who make things and people who want to have something made. Boom, mic drop. What do you got in 40 seconds?
yeah. I go buy my new book.
Yes.
Um, Wizard Staff. It's on my Etsy. I am doing Queen City Zine Fest, but by the time
Yes.
this show comes out, probably was yesterday. Hopefully, I made a ton of money, but
Yeah,
um,
yeah.
you know, yeah, Levi, your turn.
All right, the big number two. I said it. I've been trying to avoid saying it, but it's the second issue is in the Etsy store, going up as a pre-sale. It will ship in mid-May. May being our favorite month so far of this year. You
I
got
hope
anything
so.
else?
I'm just do the damn thing.
Out. Woo! Made it.
Woohoo!